Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Drak and Shadow Vlogs as we take on yet another wonder from the Marvel Studios and the cinematic universe that is Marvel. And it was indeed a marvel, as today we are taking on Ant-Man and the Wasp. Now, just to kind of bring people up to speed, first of all, and Alex, I want you to make sure to do this. Annotate a link to our previous review of Ant-Man. So if people want to know what we thought of the first movie and you don't know, there you go. There's our review of Ant-Man. But let's go ahead and get into this. Welcome to Drak and Shadow Vlogs. If you are brand spanking new, spoilers. Okay? We're unrepentant about it. We don't even try to keep it anymore. We're spoiling the heck out of this thing, especially since much merriment was had. So let's go ahead and get things started. So how just to give like a little bit of a taste, Alex, what was your take on Ant-Man and where were you at walking into this? Like, were you worried about it because of the trailers, or were you optimistic? Things like that.
I enjoyed the first Ant-Man a lot. I thought that was a great movie back then.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was great. So I was looking forward to this one. I figured that should probably be good. I couldn't see any real.
Did you see any of the trailers aside from the ones we saw in movies?
Probably. I don't think I saw too much. Just the ones we either saw or maybe the occasional TV spot.
Yeah, so. I think I saw the Super Bowl one, but like I went out of my. It's now become like a personal habit that when Marvel Cinematic Universe commercials happen on TV, I tend to avoid them because it's so much better to see those trailers in the theater on a big screen with Atmos, with really great sound. It's better, in my opinion, to see it that way.
Yeah.
For me, I loved Ant-Man. In fact, I love the fact that it was, because here's the thing. As much as we loved and appreciated the jokes that were being made in Guardians of the Galaxy is still kind of an action humor fusion kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I always looked at Ant-Man as the first legit take on a comedy from Marvel Studios, because yes, there is like awesome stuff happening, don't get me wrong. There are fight action scenes to be had, but most of the stuff is just making fun of the fact, you shrink, things get bigger, you get big, things get smaller kind of stuff. And so, like, would that be a fair assessment? Like, a lot of it is just jokes.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, so at that point, I loved how Ant-Man became kind of the first attempt at, like, a legit comedy from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I don't think really anything else classifies as... I mean, maybe you could classify Homecoming a little bit as comedy. I don't know, am I stretching there? Maybe Homecoming, just because of the gags?
I mean, all Marvel movies have those gags and jokes now, so it's really kind of hard. I mean,
it's kind of hard to be able to do that. But yeah, well, I loved Ant-Man, and I avoided the trailers on TV. I just wanted to see them on the big screen, and when we saw this one, I was absolutely ecstatic and looking forward to even more size-related jokes being done with Ant-Man and the Wasp. So let's go ahead and get into this. What things that we liked versus things that we starting with the things that we liked from this, Alex. Where were you at?
I like the fact it's set in the aftermath of Civil War. So we see how Scott, of course, having assisted Captain America and going against the Zelkov.
And it's what, months after the Sokovian Accords had gone into effect and Cap is in hiding.
Yeah, at least months, maybe a year or so.
Yeah, so this is post Civil War, and I'm just gonna go ahead and spoil it right here and now. It basically kind of shows us the passage of time leading into Infinity War, like how much time has actually passed between the two projects. So at least in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That's right. Yeah. So I liked that, and I liked seeing how that affected him, concerning he did get arrested because he did fight for Team Captain America.
Yes.
And so seeing him, but the fact that he is at least under house arrest at the start of the movie.
Well, I like the fact that it wasn't just that he was arrested and he was, being watched by the FBI and he was creating problems for his family again, even though they were like, I don't think they cared. That's the weirdest part about this whole thing, is that I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you know, they went, the mom and the dad went from absolutely hating Scott to loving him, and they kind of just continued that on here. And I like how they did that, but I will say it got a little creepy, a tad. But I also like the fact that it wasn't just that, you know, the FBI thing happened. The whole thing affected his relationship with Hank and Hope.
Yeah.
Because he walked off with the suit and didn't tell anybody. And as we've seen in Ant-Man, like, Hank doesn't take kindly to that. Like, he doesn't take kindly to betrayal at all. And that's how Hank saw this. So I like the fact that he was not only isolated from, you know, not necessarily society, but, you know, he was under arrest again, but he also was just like isolated from Hank because he stole his suit and destroyed it and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
So, other things.
Paul Rudd is great. He's always great, especially when Hank Pym's wife kind of inhabits his body for a bit, his mind. And, you know, Paul Rudd is so great because he really, like, shows it on his face and in his mannerisms and how his
I'd
body
like
language.
to imagine that behind the cameras, Michelle Pfeiffer was looking directly at him and showing him, like, what she would do in that case.
Probably so.
He's like, I'd hold their hands. He's like, really? Okay, I'll hold their hands. And what makes that even better is the second that she gets out of his head, and the first thing he notices is he's holding hands with Hank.
Yeah.
It's like, Hank? But yeah, that's actually another thing that we should probably get into at some point is the performance of Michelle Pfeiffer, now new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Janet Van Dyne, the original Wasp. So we should probably get into that at some point, but other good things you liked.
A lot of the humor is really funny. There's a lot of great jokes in this.
Yeah, there really was a lot of really great humor. Is it better than the jokes that were being made in the original Ant-Man? That's tough, because the problem is that for a lot of those jokes, for them to be funny, you kind of need to see Ant-Man for it to be funny for you. I mean, it's great and all to be able to see a giant building get shrunk down to size and become a carry-on kind of thing. You know, that's silly. But a lot of the jokes of bouncing back and forth and the banter between Hope and Scott, you kind of need the first movie to get it.
And we didn't get nearly as many recaps by Michael Penya's character.
You're calling that a positive, and I think that was actually one of your favorite things in Ant-Man.
No, I'm not calling that a positive. Like, I'm just saying as a difference here between the original and this one.
Yeah, I think it was really difficult for them to try and fix that in until the moment that they actually were able to, which was he got given basically truth serum. That was actually one of the other jokes I really liked at the end, is the guy who gave him that is like, it's not truth serum. And then after being given some, he's like, it's truth serum.
It really is truth serum.
It is truth serum. So, yeah, that was the way that they did that. And I was actually really sad because you kind of went off to go have a restroom break and you missed the best part.
I walked in right as he was doing it, sadly, so I did miss a good chunk of it.
Yeah, did you actually see the prison scene with it?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. I need to show you this when it comes out on DVD. Because so basically when the truth serum kicked in, he decided to tell his entire life story of like when he met Scott. And they started in the police cell. And holy crap, the hair that was coming off of Luis. It was like a weird dread fro. It was so weird. It was like something I'd see out of Scrubs. And it was awesome.
Okay.
And then the other part too, which I have a feeling that Evangeline, is it Evangeline or Evangeline? Evangeline Lilly and Paul Rudd had, where he was trying to explain their relationship, and there's a moment where they're pretty hot and heavy. Because that's, again, this is all Luis's interpretation, so they're all rubbing on each other. It's like, dude, that's the weirdest thing ever, just because you don't see it happening. But I can only imagine like half the crap that they came up with. The other thing too that was kind of disappointing about the Luis story is Stanley that was his cameo from Ant-Man. This time around they changed the cameo a bit. And I kind of wanted him to come in as the bartender again and have Luis's words coming out of him. That would have been hilarious.
I don't know, because I really loved the Stan Lee cameo in this one.
No, it was good. Don't get me wrong, but I almost wish that we could have gotten that whole Stan Lee as the bartender. And so I was trying to tell you my story, man, is just having him mouth off everything Luis was saying. So other things.
Walter Goggins is back.
Walton Goggins, our favorite side character. Was he in the first Ant-Man?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he was in the first Ant-Man, but he's been in I think he's been in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
We double check if he's been in any Marvel movies, but
Sorry, I didn't mean to wreck you guys' ears with because I have to drink.
Because
But Walton Goggins, yeah, he was an amazing addition to it. Like, the interesting part about this movie is that there isn't really a villain per se. Like, they advertise in the trailers that Ghost is the villain, but as you kind of go along, you realize that Ghost and other people don't necessarily qualify as villains. They qualify as like hindrances. They're more obstacles to the goal, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the overall goal of the movie is to get Janet Van Dyne back. So Ghost comes into play because she wants the same technology. And so that's what I'm saying is, like, there is no official villain of it, because I mean, if we want to classify villains here, then Ghost is a villain. Walton Goggins' character is a villain. The FBI is a villain.
Yeah. Anybody, I mean, antagonists, so anybody
Yeah.
who's opposed to the protagonist. So, yeah, essentially anybody who is there to make life difficult.
We're not talking like
Scott.
super villain antagonists. We're talking like annoyances.
Yeah.
Is really what happens, because they come in at the worst possible times. Okay, other positives.
The chase through San Francisco was pretty fun. I liked that.
Oh, dude, that was a really great sequence.
Yeah.
The other one that I wanted to give a special credit for was, oh crap, I'm trying to remember where it was in the movie, but they actually had an active shot where I think it might have been Paul Rudd, where he was talking for a straight 3 minutes, and you could tell the camera never left. Like, they never cut, they never did anything like that, and that was just like, that guy deserves a freaking Oscar for doing that.
Oh, you're talking about the FBI agent, the guy who was like trying to explain to.
That's right. Yeah. So yes, it was Randall Park.
Yeah.
Randall Park did that for. Was that the time when he talked to Cassie?
Yeah, he was talking to Cassie.
And that was like a solid 3-minute thing. It didn't cut.
Yeah,
That was amazing.
He got through that whole monologue.
I reached over to you. I'm like, that guy deserves a freaking Oscar. That's not easy, people.
I love that. First, he's trying to like simplify it for the little girl, and then he just goes into complicated. It's like, so it's like, you know how in your school there's rules like you can't draw on the walls. Well, your daddy and Captain America drew on the walls and violated this particular section of the Zolkova Accords, which prohibits this. He goes like a whole legal jargon.
And he just goes completely all like. I was thoroughly convinced near the end of that. I'm like, wow, I think Agent Coulson would have explained that better. I think he would have. Like, can we bring Clark Gregg in here? We know he's alive.
It did take him a while to finally get the acronym SHIELD throughout Iron Man, so I'm sure it still would have taken him a little while too.
Well, no, because he always got cut off in that movie. Like, he never got to say, like, I think once he got to say the strategic homeland integration and
no, he always got to say it, and they always just like kind of like bounced back and say
that, just call a shield.
Like that's a mouth. Like, boy, that's a real mouthful. It's like, yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. And then at the end, it's like, just call a shield.
Yeah, just call a shield.
And I'm glad. Again, I'm glad that they did that, because like up until that point, everybody. Like in the theater when I went to go see it, I don't know about you, for the original Iron Man, a bunch of us were like, what the hell? And we were all Marvel fans.
Right.
And all of a sudden, just call a shield. I'm like, and literally like in unison on our rows, like, oh, shield. All right. We're with you now.
I was new to the whole Marvel shtick at that point, so I didn't know what shield was.
Yeah. So, and then, that was just funny in the theater. Just like, oh, because it wasn't just us either. That's why we were laughing at the end of the movie. But yeah, so you have these positives. Anything else you want to add?
I think that's it for my positives.
Jiminy Christmas. They like I cannot literally think of a performance that was bad.
Yeah, everybody was great.
A lot of the actors, I'm gonna murder their name. Well, specifically, how do we say the one for Ghost?
Let's see. Hannah John Kamen.
Really great job as Ghost. It actually made you feel for her, but at the same time fear her because she can kill people.
Yeah.
And the power that she has is kind of frightening. I don't know about you, but I almost like peed my pants when that whole her fist was through Hank Pym's throat.
Oh,
that was freaky.
Yeah.
Freaky as hell. And I actually wondered if like this was going to be the moment where, because like they wouldn't kill Michael Douglas, would they? But yeah, this could actually have killed him. And thankfully he was just like, no, I hurt. But yeah, every performance was amazing. Michelle Pfeiffer, for as little time as she was actually on screen, she did amazing. Michael Douglas was still able to pull off both the humor as well as just be an asshole to everybody. I mean, like, the perfect example here is the whole discussion between him and Lawrence Fishburne, where we find like a previous colleague of Hank's and how Hank just doesn't get along with people, kind of thing. So I liked all of the performances roughly. A lot of the gags were hilarious, especially the gag at the very beginning where Scott Lang literally created like this ultimate heist for his daughter.
Yeah.
Because he has no time for anything else. He's under house arrest. So he creates this elaborate cave where they make a paper mache Anton, and then they steal the world's greatest grandma trophy, and then they do the whole what was it, the slide all the way down
Yeah.
and bust the fence. That was awesome and elaborate, and man, that, I don't care what anybody says, that's dad of the year material right there.
Totally.
I especially love Paul Rudd's gags of like, do you realize how bored I am in the house? Do you realize how bored? I learned magic.
Yeah.
He almost seemed like not satisfied with it at all.
See,
and the funniest thing is magic gets used like everywhere in this movie.
Yeah, the fact he was under house arrest just kind of reminded me of Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that movie?
I've seen pieces of it on like FX, but I never saw it in the theaters.
Yeah, I saw that in theaters way back when. Just similar
'cause
concept. It's like, what won't you do when you're under house arrest when you're bored out of your mind?
Exactly. You can't leave to go to the grocery store. You can't do anything. So what does he do? He learns magic for his kids.
Yeah.
Or for his kid.
Even the fact when his foot accidentally goes just outside the warning zone and it triggers the little warning bracelets.
That's what. Okay, that was actually one thing I was trying to figure out in my head when he. Oh, you know what? It was actually for a different reason. But when he was getting into the bath and he was putting a bag over his foot,
yeah,
I was like sitting there going, "Why is he putting a bag on his foot? Did he get like an injury or something?" And then I like literally just write down like, "Oh, well, his foot went through the fence. Oh, but it has the ankle monitor.
Yeah,
he can't put that in the bath."
I would think they'd make those waterproof, but I don't know.
They are.
I don't know how it works, so...
Newsflash, they are.
Thankfully, I've never had to be under house arrest. Let's hope I never do.
I've had friends.
Yeah, oh my god.
I've had friends in high school that did have some kind of like a probation, and one of the... I do actually remember asking this dumbass question to them when it was raining. Is like, can you even step out because of the monitor? Would it go off? He's like, no, they're waterproof.
Okay.
It's like... Well, yeah, of course they would be waterproof. They have to work that way, right?
Makes sense.
So at that point, yeah, I love a lot of the stuff that they actually tried to do in this movie, and it was just the fact that since you didn't have a villain, they went from gag to gag to gag on trying to not only accomplish the goal, which was a noble one, like we wanted to get Janet back, but at the same time also. We wanted Scott to be safe. We wanted Scott's house arrest to end, and they were able to keep that balance really, really well, in my opinion. So we've been spouting positives for a while. Negatives. What did this film do wrong?
It's not terribly often, but there's a couple times where a scene changes, and it's like it feels kind of weirdly abrupt. It's not like the cut feels too quick. It's just more like, wait, where are we? How are we here suddenly? Right? It's like,
this didn't, because I was actually trying to think, like, was this happening in the original Ant-Man? No, I think they explained things
It's like,
fairly well.
you know, just a simple establishing shot or something just to kind of show the scene transition.
And sometimes they gave you one, but then there were others that they didn't.
It's just like suddenly we're at point A, then cut, we're at point C, and it's like, I feel like there's a couple scenes missing here.
Well, that's what an extended edition is for.
Yeah, let's face it, it's gonna happen. So
it's gonna happen. I mean, we already just barely heard about the from what I understand, the gargantuan Infinity War extended edition we're gonna get.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah,
that's gonna be quite a thing to watch.
I'm looking forward to watching it.
Yeah.
I would agree. Like, some of the transitions were a little rougher than the previous movie. I don't think they harmed it too much, but they were kind of a hindrance.
Yeah, it wasn't terribly often. It was just a few scenes here and there.
Yep.
The only time I think the gags got a little dumb was just when Lawrence Fishburne's character, Dr. Foster, and Ghost are kind of explaining things, and he's kind of like, he's getting his chance to kind of monologue a little bit, and the phone keeps going off. I mean, it is kind of amusing, but I gotta like, come on, guys, at least wait till the scene's over, till we get the explanation, then start the jokes again.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. I liked it personally.
I liked it.
I like the fact that they tried to establish that Lawrence Fishburne's character had a bit of a short temper, kind of thing, and so like,
that makes sense
phone
there.
would set him off.
So I'm a little more accepting of it here because, I mean, with the last Avengers movie, it kind of grated on me a little more because I feel like, this movie should be just a wee bit more serious. I'm not asking for Batman v Superman levels of grim here, but I'm just like,
well, serious scene is serious, kind of thing.
It's just, so it doesn't bother me as much here as it bothered me, say, in the last Avengers here, but so just once in a while maybe it got under me, but not too bad because I really did like a lot of the movie's humor.
Yeah, I thought that a lot of the gags were really, really well done, but I kind of agree with you. There were a couple of serious scenes that needed to stay serious, and they wanted to ham in more gags, kind of thing. And I think part of the reason why they did the phone gag was because of the fact that they wanted to get the audience worried that the FBI was at his door. And so they did it a few times in this movie where they were like, oh, the FBI's at his door, jig is up, there's nothing you can do about it. And instead, in this case, it was, Dad, I can't find my shoe. It's like, okay, yeah, this was kind of not necessary. You kind of interrupted the plot here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was acceptable. Like, I can think of a dozen other things that have happened in previous Marvel movies that were way worse than this. And I think a few of them were in Infinity War. So, other negatives that we can come up with. This is more of a gripe than anything else. I kind of wish that we'd gotten a little more time in the quantum realm with Hank. Just because we knew from the first movie that, like, this is what Hank wanted to do. He wanted to be able to go subatomic. He wanted to be able to see it. And it felt like because of the speed of the situation and all that, he was not able to sit back and enjoy. Like, they had that one scene at the beginning where it's like, Scott, you didn't tell me how beautiful it was, and the big worm things try to come at him.
Yeah.
But then after that, like, they never kind of let him just sit back and look. And guys, if this is another kind of comic book gripe for me, Hank Pym is like one of the smartest minds in the Marvel universe, and also one of the most curious. And so at that point, I think it would have actually been an amazing thing for him to step out and not just sit there and look at his tracker all the time, but to actually look up and realize where he is. And realize where he's standing, kind of thing. I think that would have really helped the Hank Pym character. And it's a tiny gripe, but it's one that I kind of had a problem with. I also would have liked Janet Van Dyne's powers to be explained a little bit. Like the quantum realm changes you. It would have been great to have at least a tiny bit of exposition explaining why she can do that. Why she did what she was able to do in the quantum realm. Might have helped a little bit with the story, because I mean, I literally looked at that. I don't know about you. I'm like, oh look, she has Jesus powers, just because, like,
or she's
look,
an
MacGuffin is MacGuffin,
or she's just suddenly an X-Man.
Well, dude, she can't be an X-Man. She has to be an Inhuman because we can't do X-Men in this universe.
Well, we probably will in the future.
Actually, no, they've decided to keep it separate.
I don't know. So, I'm doubting it. I'm sure they're going to find a way to integrate it post Infinity War.
So at that point, other things that they did wrong. I can't really think of too many things. I do think the gags kind of hindered a few serious moments.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they were fine. I will say that one gag that got on my nerves a little bit was the other dad hugging too. That was kind of weird. Especially considering in the first movie, like, he didn't like him. He didn't like him at all up until like 90% into the movie, and then he liked him. And I'm also a little disappointed that, like, Anton wasn't actually in Scott Lang's house. Come on, he was a pet ant. What could he have done wrong? But then we also got to have the amazing gags of him eating Fruity Pebbles box.
It was Fruit Loops.
Oh, it was Fruit Loops, that's right. And then also him in the bath.
Playing the drums.
Oh, yeah, playing the drums. That was actually one of the better gags with Hank Pym, is he's looking down there and he's playing the drums. He's like, what on earth do you do with your day?
What are you, 15?
Yeah, what are you, 15? I think that's pretty much all the negatives we can come up with here, because there really isn't too much to gripe about. This was an overall good presentation for what we expected.
Yeah.
So at that point, the one thing I want to get into before we get into final verdicts is, because I have a feeling we're going to get asked about it, is the Easter egg at the very end. Basically, that's what we were hinting at, that it starts, the movie starts post Civil War, like months after Civil War, and literally leads up to the events of Infinity War. And so, what are our thoughts on the Easter egg?
It was really interesting and surprising. I didn't think it was gonna quickly lead into Infinity Wars like that.
I kind of was guessing, but my guess went a different direction. I thought as soon as he went quantum, he was going to fade. And they were going to be like, Scott? 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 And then they swerved me, and no, it was Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, and Hope Van Dyne that all got hit by the snap, you know?
Right.
That blew my mind, and it actually makes me very excited for what they're going to do for Infinity War 2, because of the fact that how is Scott going to get out of the quantum realm? How is he going to get back out? Is he going to be able to get himself back out? Do they have to figure out another way to get him out? That's probably a better twist, in my opinion, as opposed to like actually having Hank Pym like help Tony Stark work out a solution for Infinity War. So yeah, I think overall we like the setup for it, and this is officially we have one more movie before Avengers 4. So we have Captain Marvel, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And then we have Avengers 4 again. So holy crap, man. So with that being said, final verdict on Ant-Man and the Wasp. What would you give it?
Really enjoyed it. Really fun movie. I'm going to give it a 9.
I'm there with you. This is a weird year. We're actually in agreement for most of these movies.
Yeah.
I'm there with you. If I was going to give a min-max, I'd probably go 9.5. Is it perfect by any means? No. You know, like some of the gags are lovable, some of them got old. But yeah, 9.5, really good, really enjoyable movie, really awesome family film. The only thing that's just kind of disappointing is that, now that I'm thinking about it, is that Stan Lee cameo. And it's not because it's not funny, it's just because instantly when I looked at him, I'm like, oh, look at all of the horrible things that are happening to Stan right now.
Yeah.
That sucks. But I did like that whole thing. Car Shrink, she's like, well, the 60s were going to have a price, so I guess I'm paying for it.
The 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for it.
Yeah, the 60s, yeah, well, the 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for it, my friends. So, yeah, 9.5. Now, how much will we actually recommend that people spend to see Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Definitely worth the theater. Go see it in the theater.
Theater in prime time, I would definitely recommend it. I think there are enough gimmicks here that if you absolutely have to see it in 3D, you probably could.
Yeah.
And it would work. I don't know if Atmos would be worth it, because there really wasn't anything marvelous sound-wise that was happening in this film. So 3D, if you want to justify it, you can. The only thing I would say in the matter is just because this was a movie that I felt like we were both going to enjoy. I should have just doled out the extra cash for the recliners, man.
Yeah.
That would have been so much better. And that, you know what? That's what we're going to do from here on in. Like, if we know we're going to like a movie, I'm doling out the cash for the recliners just because we might as well just enjoy the crap out of it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's probably, I'd recommend primetime matinee. Go see it with family, go see it with friends. You all are going to enjoy it. And I think that's going to go ahead and do it for Ant-Man and the Wasp. So thank you guys so much for watching or listening in to our opinion on it. And the next time that we're going to be getting together is actually going to be a few weeks off, as we're going to take on another Dwayne Johnson movie this year. We're going to take on
Dwayne.
we're going to take on Skyscraper. So we'll see you guys then.